Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Meltdown. University of Florida fires all DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion employees. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. From the independent Florida Alligator, University of Florida eliminates diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. Chief Diversity Officer and DEI officers among those fired. Also from the independent Florida Alligator, Florida shut down state funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion. These University of Florida programs could be affected. Florida Board of Governors voted January 24th to approve final regulation for DEI ban passed in May 2023. A lot of the funding for these DEI programs was coming from the state. The state cut off the funding. That's the end of the programs. Coming from the independent Florida Alligator, University of Florida eliminates diversity, equity, and inclusion offices. UF fired 13 full-time diversity, equity, and inclusion positions and ended 15 administrative appointments on Friday. It also eliminated the Office of the Chief Diversity Officer and ended DEI contracts with outside vendors, according to a Friday memo. The memo follows a 2023 Florida statute prohibiting the university from spending state or federal funds on DEI initiatives, which was approved by the Florida Board of Governors in its final form, January 24th. The about $5 million that was previously allocated to DEI expenses will now fund faculty recruitment. The office's website listed it had 3 employees, including CDO Marsha McGriff, Farrah Harvey, and William Rogers. The memo did not disclose the future of the Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Engagement, which received over $400,000 in the 2022 to 2023 UF operating budget, 85% of which was state funded. The center oversees offices for Asian, Black, Hispanic, and LGBT student engagement. Employees fired will receive a 12-week severance pay and can apply for other positions within the university. Hiring for those employees will be fast-tracked. Quote, the University of Florida is and will always be unwavering in our commitment to universal human dignity, the memo said. As we educate students by thoughtfully engaging a wide range of ideas and views, we will continue to foster a community of trust and respect for every member of the Gator Nation. And here's the source of this: Florida shutting down the funding. Florida shut down state funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion. These UF programs could be affected. In the days following the statewide ban on diversity, equity, and inclusion funding, students at the University of North Florida are protesting the closure of their school's LGBT center. Meanwhile, University of Florida faculty and students are still unsure what the future looks like. The Florida Board of Governors gave final approval to a ban on universities putting state or federal funds towards DEI or social activism programs. Governor Ron DeSantis first passed the DEI funding ban in May 2023. In November, the Florida Board of Governors agreed to adopt a loose interpretation of the terms DEI and social activism through Regulation 9.016. Now the regulation is approved and in effect. The new regulation interprets DEI as advantages based on race, gender, or sexual orientation, or the idea a group's action is biased because of those factors. Social activism is defined as a goal to change a government policy or achieve a social issue. UNF announced hours after the regulation's approval that it will close its Office of Diversity and Inclusion, including its women's and LGBT centers. The UT administration hasn't issued a similar plan of action as of January 28th. In January 2023, a state-ordered audit showed UF dedicated over $5 million, or about 0.14% of its operating budget, to programs and initiatives related to diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory for the 2022 to 2023 fiscal year. Over $3 million came from the state. The largest portion of funding was divided among DEI Deans, directors, and committees in UF colleges. Other high-funded categories included the Chief Diversity Office, Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Diversity, and various humanities-based courses. 9 UF colleges had deans responsible for DEI in January 2023. 1 year later, 8 of those deans are still at UF, but none hold the same position. 2 of the former DEI deans have become simply associate deans in the past year, but 6 hold similar roles with differently worded titles. The former associate dean for diversity, inclusion, and global affairs in the nursing college is now associate dean for community engagement and global affairs. Robert Thomas, former Associate Dean for DEI at UF Warrington College of Business and current Assistant Dean for DEI at Indiana University, overheard conversations about changing titles in response to DEI pushback before leaving UF in 2022. The changed job names came in response to anti-DEI legislation. But most newly labeled faculty are simply continuing the same work under different titles, Thomas said. Quote, no one wants to break the law, so if DEI is not allowed, then definitely nobody's going to work under that title, he said. But the activities that are performed, the inclusiveness, the attempt to increase success rates for all students, that work needs to happen regardless of what title you associate it with. As Florida cracks down on DEI, universities in other states are recognizing the opportunity to acquire UF faculty fed up with the state's political climate, Thomas said. Quote, I was getting 2 or 3 requests for interviews a month from various groups looking for somebody to work in the area of DEI, he said. People who are marketable are being targeted right and left and being asked if they're willing to move, and a lot of people who previously were unmovable are open to those offers. Professors and administrators have been moving out of Texas, for example, and this is another good example, because in red states, they're really scaling back on this in multiple settings, including colleges. The UF College of Journalism and Communications didn't identify a DEI dean in January 2023, but it did have a Committee of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity, which voted in November to change its name to the Community Plus Culture Committee. College faculty approved the name change January 26, 2 days after Regulation 9016 passed, said committee co-chair and UF journalism professor Matt Sheehan. Shifting to community and culture is no big deal, Sheehan said. The committee never practiced DEI in terms of basing preferences on demographics. Instead, the rechristening was just to ensure the college is up to date with state law, he said. He thinks the committee, under its new name, will hold up under the new regulation. Sheehan has heard no instructions from UT administration about the DEI defunding in the days since the regulation passed, he said. College administrators received almost $2.5 million in the 2022 to 2023 operating budget across all colleges for dean, director, committee, and organizer positions, 51% of which was state funded. The College of Veterinary Medicine received the most funding at over $200,000. UF Associate Dean positions change after DEI investigation, including all deans appearing on the January 2023 report of UF Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion employees. The former Associate Dean for DEI in the Business College is no longer with UF. So in January 2023, they had multiple colleges with multiple titles, including Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity. In January 2024, they changed the names. UF Chief Diversity Office. UF hired Marsha McGriff as Chief Diversity Officer in 2021. Her role was created based on results from a 2015 faculty survey asking how administration could improve the UF workplace environment. McGriff, a member of the President's Cabinet, was salaried at $300,000 a year in fall 2022. Of her office's over $1 million from the 2022-2023 operating budget, about $780,000, or 72%, came from state funding. McGriff and her office did not respond to requests for comment on how the regulation may change their operations moving forward. And here's how their operations changed. Chief Diversity Officer and DEI officers are among those fired. Graduate School Programs. UF Graduate School DEI programs, as identified in the 2022 report, include the Office of Graduate Diversity Initiatives and SF2UF. The OGDI website no longer exists, and the last event the office advertised on its social media took place in May. The office previously worked to recruit and retain underrepresented graduate students. Graduate diversity programs received about $331,000 from the 2022 to 2023 operating budget, 97% of which came from state funding. Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Engagement. The Center for Inclusion and Multicultural Engagement oversees offices for Asian, Black, Hispanic, and LGBT student engagement. The center runs first-year student transition programs, diversity training workshops, a yearly diversity symposium, and a multicultural mentor program. But students can also head to the second floor of the Right Student Union just to do homework or hang out with members of their own community. Quote, I just feel at home being surrounded by other Asians and minorities on campus, said Mackenzie Prostek, a 19-year-old UF biology freshman who frequents the Asian American Pacific Islander DESI office to meet with the Chinese Student Association or just to chat with friends. As a Chinese adoptee, Prostek grew up not knowing much about her culture. Having a resource on campus that helps her connect to her heritage and meet other Chinese students makes her feel a little bit closer to home, she said. Alexandra Sees, a 20-year-old UF sophomore, doesn't go to the LGBT center when she needs to get homework done because she'll know she'll just get caught up in conversations with other students. She knows she won't have to deal with homophobia there and worries what will happen if she loses her primary safe space, she said. Quote, I'm kind of nervous about the whole center getting shut down, honestly, Sees said. Nobody would want to come here, they would go to other schools. The CIME received over $400,000 in the 2022 to 2023 operating budget, 85% of which was state funded. The center declined to comment on how the funding ban may change its operations moving forward. DEI-related courses, social geography, theater appreciation, cultural anthropology, and introduction to health disparities were all UF courses identified as promoting DEI or critical race theory in the 2022 report. 9 of the 10 courses identified are still offered, with the exception of language in the USA. The regulation contains an exception for DEI defunding when it comes to, quote, classroom instruction, but Florida already banned teaching discrimination based on race, color, sex, or national origin in March. The problem with regulating DEI and critical theory in classrooms arises in the vagueness of those definitions, said UF law professor Chris Hampson. These laws, when I read them as an attorney, I see a lot of vagueness. I see a lot of ambiguity, he said. I'm not sure what it means to say or teach that systemic racism is inherent. Well, in these courses, they usually do just say that the country is racist, the whole system is racist, everything is racist. So if you're discussing that in classes as a teacher, it's obviously against the law. The reason this attorney is calling it vague is to say that it's unenforceable, so just ignore the law. They better not ignore the law. They'll get in trouble. The law will almost certainly be challenged based on vagueness and First Amendment violations, Hampson said. The ban was already sued by new college faculty and students in August. Though a federal judge ruled that challenge premature, Hampson expects to see pieces of it challenged now that the regulations are finalized in court. Though he senses faculty are feeling unsettled about what the law will mean in Gainesville, he hopes they will receive guidance from administration soon. Quote, what I've been told is for now business as usual until we're told how UF will be implementing the law, he said. The 10 DEI-related courses received over $550,000 in the 2022 to 2023 operating budget, all from state funds. Theater appreciation was the highest, costing at $134,000 and more full-time employees than any other class. UF will comply fully with state legislation and state regulations, said UF spokesperson Steve Orlando in a statement to the Alligator. Quote, Gators believe in universal dignity and the immeasurable worth of every individual, the statement read. We will continue to foster a community that is built on trust and respect and is committed to academic excellence. None of the faculty members who spoke with the Alligator had received instruction about how the regulation will be implemented at UF as of January 28th. The university administration has made no public statements on the issue. Florida has been ahead of the game on this one. They've been doing a great job cutting funding to DEI programs. They will not finance through state funds or even allow federal funds to be distributed to discriminatory programs that are no good for students and no good for the community. Big win for the state of Florida and big win for the people of Florida. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.